That's what everybody thinks. The father and the son, and in the last few years, everybody says, gee, I sure miss H.W. I sure miss the father. What a much more reasonable man he was. He went into Iraq, but he stopped. He gave stuff away to the corporations, but he stopped. He did this, but he stopped. And so I thought, boy, I'm not seeing signs of a real rift between the two of them, just a stylistic difference. And so the more I looked into it, I thought, I've got to look at the father. And so more than half of Family of Secrets is about George H.W. Bush, a man we knew nothing about. Nothing. He was vice president or president. In fact, if you take the two Bushes, for 20 of 28 years of this country's history, one of them was vice president or president. That has never happened before in the history of the Republic. So I looked at the father, and I discovered he'd had a secret life. I wondered why they named him CIA director in 1976, at the height of investigations of the CIA, of the Kennedy assassination and other things, a guy who seemed like kind of a goofball, frankly. And they put him in charge of this agency. Out of all the people he could take, they said he was a neophyte. And what I discovered was he wasn't. He was CIA through and through. He had been his entire life. That's one of the revelations of Family of Secrets. And then I discovered that he had all these strange things, like he couldn't remember where he was on November 22, 1963, the day that John F. Kennedy was shot. And I thought it was strange. And then I came across some declassified documents which showed that he was working for the CIA on November 22 with Cuban exiles, that he was receiving briefings about things related to the assassination. And then another document has him calling the FBI and saying, my name's George H.W. Bush, and I'm a private citizen, an oil man, and I happen to be here in Tyler, Texas, a small town, and I just wanted to say, I may have some idea who shot the president. I would like to give you a name of somebody. There's a guy who can't remember where he was, and at the same time, he was calling the FBI as a private citizen to say, I might know who shot the president. By the way, that was not the right guy. And the same guy is also secretly working for the CIA, getting briefings about Cuban exiles. So you'd think this would be of some interest, and you'd think perhaps we ought to get on some shows and talk about this, because everything in Family Secrets is documented. That's how I work, all footnoted. Anyway, Watergate, basically it looks like Nixon was framed by the same people who went after John F. Kennedy. I know that sounds crazy, but that's all new to me. I have to say, I thought Lee Harvey Oswald shot Kennedy, and I thought Nixon was the bad guy in Watergate. But when you're a journalist or any kind of researcher, I don't care if it's scientific or whatever, you have to have an open mind. And you have to be willing to let the facts lead you wherever they lead you. And that's what I did. So a couple more things. First of all, I said I would talk a little bit about Obama. There's an article we're handing out here at the first table as you go out the door on your left. It's called What Obama is Up Against. It's not intended to take sides there. It is intended to say you cannot view presidents as sole figures, great actors on the stage of history, elected, and now they do whatever they want, and if they don't do it, they're bad. Presidents are constantly terrified, because just as they can't get in without huge numbers of very, very powerful people saying, okay, they can't stay in unless huge numbers of powerful people say, okay. And we've seen many presidents, bad things happen to them. Jimmy Carter, peaceably, it was kept to one term. Bill Clinton had a sexual scandal. You could say, well, that was his own doing, but why was that such a big story? And why was $100 million spent on prosecuting that? I mean, this is not normal. What did they spend on the 9/11 Commission? What was it, $17 million? First it was with $3. Okay, so you get your numbers comparison there. Richard Nixon basically was trying to do things that were actually angering the military-industrial complex, as Eisenhower called it, and that's, again, a few chapters in there. Okay, just to start wrapping up, one thing I discovered, it really opened my eyes, was here you have my experience, a sort of credentialed, reasonably mainstream journalist, and I can't get on any of those shows. And by the way, I haven't even been on all your favorite Comedy Central lefty show. I have not been on them. Not interesting to them. I've been on a lot of media, but it's kind of, shall we say, some lesser known, unusual shows and things like that, and we've gotten the word out, and I'm very happy to say that Family of Secrets is selling steadily and the word is getting out there. But people always say, what can I do? Well, whatever it is, whether it's Family of Secrets or it's Naomi Klein's book or it's books that people here have written, something that my friend Cindy Sheehan wrote, you want to get it out there. You want to let people know about it, Colleen Rowley and so forth. Spread the word. read, spread the word, sign up. These things really make a difference. And you're a change vector. You know, if you, I always say, you know, people, you know, what you can do for 5 minutes in your bathrobe is amazing, because that's how everybody learns. You know, my mother sends me stuff I didn't know, and I read it, and I go out there and I start blogging, and maybe I tell you about it, radio or TV or something. And so we're all very, very powerful in the information age, as long as we're still allowed and the internet is still free. So I just want to say knowledge is power. And along those lines, we've started a nonprofit organization. We have a table here about it. It's called Who, What, Why. whowhatwhy.com. It is a nonprofit, nonpartisan investigative journalism website. We hope to grow and become one of the leading sources of news. And we right now don't have any plans to have theater reviews or weather or sports. Or celebrity sightings or news conferences or anything like that. All we're going to do is dig. That's all we're going to do. And we're going to dig when we have the staff and the resources. Unfortunately, we're not independently wealthy, and we do have to pay our rent, and so we are reliant on donations, and we think that's the most honest way to do news instead of getting it from large advertisers. So there are places on the site where you can go and sign up to make monthly or one-time contributions. In any case, when we have the staff and resources, we will consider a broad array of subjects, and one thing I will commit to doing is that if and when we can settle on a particular and distinct aspect of unanswered questions regarding what happened on September 11, 2001, we will explore that. And whatever we find, we will report. I'd love to take questions, but I don't think there's time now. Right? Later. Okay, great. Thank you very much.